All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Alofa, and I am the event organizer here on behalf of Samaritan Counseling Center. Before we get started, we have a few disclaimers. This workshop is for educational purposes only, and it is not therapy or medical advice. Please consult your physician or a qualified health provider if you have specific mental health concerns. Also, we are recording this workshop so we can upload it to our YouTube channel later. So if you would prefer, you are welcome to change your name on Zoom to protect your privacy. You are welcome to ask questions in the chat, and we will try to get everything answered before the end of our time here today. And last but not least, please keep in mind that we want to create a safe, supportive space where people are free to share their stories and questions and receive understanding and compassion. Now that we're through that, welcome to today's webinar, Coping with Holiday Stress, presented by Samaritan Counseling Center, Hawaii. Samaritan Counseling Center, Hawaii is a nonprofit organization that provides professional, accessible mental health counseling sensitive to spiritual traditions of individuals, families, and communities in Hawaii, regardless of their ability to pay. We also participate in community outreach events like this one to provide mental health education, strengthen resilience, and help reduce the stigma of mental illness. If you'd like to learn more about us, feel free to visit SamaritanCounselingCenterHawaii.org. We'll have the links on screen later too. And of course, we would not be here today without our wonderful guest speaker, Darcy. Darcy is a licensed clinical psychologist with Samaritan Counseling Center Hawaii and Waimanalo Health Center. She earned her doctorate from Alliant International University's California School of Professional Psychology in 1999 and has a special interest in multicultural counseling and psychology of religion and spirituality. A fifth-generation Hawaiian local, she returned to Oahu in 2010 to work with local clients and faith communities. And with that, I will pass it over to Darcy.
Good morning, everybody. I'm glad to have people here. Let me see if I can get my share screen to work. Hold on. I hope everybody can hear me and let me know if you can't. Okay, can people see that? I hope. Okay, so this is just the first page, Coping with Holiday Stress, and I'm going to go into the next page, which is kind of going into the different goals for the workshop and things that I'm going to cover today. So overview, what is stress? Well, most of us know what it is. I usually define it as anxiety, but what we're also going to be talking about is holiday stress on top of already existing stress, which a lot of us already have related to the pandemic and because of whatever else happens to be going on in our lives. So that could be job stress, that could be job loss stress, that could be family problems, substance abuse, and many other different kinds of stressors that we have. So we're going to be adding holiday stress on top of that. And so that's why we're talking about how we're going to cope with it. Some of this is planning, organizing, and reframing. And the rest is gift giving and financing, dealing with family and friends, the good and the not so good, grief and loss, remembering what's important, and the importance of self-care and self-compassion. So goals for the workshop, not losing sight of what counts. Hint, you and your relationships with loved ones. Managing expectations, planning for gifts and finances, finding support for loneliness, grief, and change, and thoughtful resolutions for the new year. So what is stress? Most of us think we know what stress is. It's a state of mental tension and worry caused by our problems. So these are worry, it's anxiety, and worry is more specific about something. Anxiety is a little bit more vague, and it can go to lots of different things. And anxiety can go high or low. We can have good days and bad days with it. Before 2020, meaning before the pandemic, depression and anxiety were the leading mental health problems across the globe. And the pandemic has actually worsened that, causing a lot of conditions that increased it, such as job loss, financial strain, homelessness, lockdowns, social isolations, And along with the lockdown, domestic violence, child abuse, and substance abuse have all increased. Interestingly, suicide rates have not. They stayed about the same. So all of these contribute to stress in our lives, including the changes in our lifestyle. Masks, social distancing, needing to show vaccination cards to get into things, conflict and misinformation about the pandemic, about vaccination, about ways to stay safe, polarized politics, and a lot of conflict and sometimes violence around that. This is on top of those of us who already have or who know those who already have effects from having contracted the coronavirus, having hospitalizations and related expenses, health issues from long COVID, people who are still having long-term health issues from having contracted COVID, and grief and loss. So we're adding holiday stress on top of that. And as we already know, the next holiday that we have starting next week is Thanksgiving. We've already had Diwali, Buddha Day is coming up, Yule, winter solstice, Hanukkah, Boxing Day, Kwanzaa, Christmas, New Year's Eve, and the Lunar New Year. In fact, between fall and I think the end of January, there's about 29 different holidays that are occurring. So Christmas is just one of those. So fall and winter holidays can include their own unique stress. That can include shopping trips, sometimes causing financial strain because we impulse buy or we forget that we didn't think of something for somebody, so we have to buy something else. Overly large and complicated family parties requiring lots of organization and dealing with different personalities. Family gatherings or friend gatherings that turn into fights about politics, coping with grief or loss, whether it's loss of a loved one, loss of a job, loss of housing, and other kinds of long-term change. Most of us are old enough, at least a lot of us are old enough, to have seen How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This is the Grinch, this is Cindy Who. And what was most important? And it was not the presents. Remember, this is something the Grinch had to find out the hard way. It wasn't the presents, it wasn't the food, it was being together. So a lot of what is trying to cope with coping with holiday stress is focusing on what's important. And in this case, it's strengthening our social connections. Social relationships help us during difficult time. That's true both anecdotally and by the research. So holidays are time to connect with positive people in our lives. It's also time to accept help and support. We do not have to do it all. If you have the energy, offer help. Helping others make them feel better too. Having conversations about holidays and special events. Talking to kids and visitors about the variety of ways this particular holiday, whichever one it is, can be celebrated. Not everyone needs to be the same. It's important to be open-minded about others and their celebrations. Some people make up their own celebrations. I have a good friend who lives in Boston now who used to do her winter solstice celebration. And that was sort of a combination Christmas, Hanukkah, and everything else. And since we were all starving graduate students, we all honored our dissertations. So that was what we did during our holiday. So what about having to plan these holidays? Some of it is setting your own expectations. What's realistic? I'd like to have all these different things, but my budget is so much. Do I need to adapt to what I have in terms of space, in terms of finances, in terms of my energy level? Maybe I'd like to have all these things, but I just don't have the bandwidth right now. Maybe I need to do something else. Depending on the child's age, we can even talk to the children about the value of money and what responsible spending is like. Keeping things in perspective. This is not forever. How can we maintain a long-term perspective? I think it was about a year ago, I was listening to a radio station and they actually recommended putting a mortgage on your house so that you could afford Christmas presents. I don't recommend that. Do something that is within your budget so you don't have to live with these long-term consequences. As we think about these holidays, these things that are coming up, what's the worst that could happen? A lot of these probably won't realistically happen. And do you trust your own ability to be flexible and resilient if it does? Most of us have a reasonable amount of that and can cope reasonably well. There will be time to follow up afterwards to do things that we forgot or that we didn't have the time to do, or people we forgot to gift. We can do it again. There's very rarely only one opportunity to do something. Focus on what's important. Ask for help if you need it. If you have the capacity, again, if you have the bandwidth, offer help. If not, it is okay to say, so sorry, not now. Better to say, how about later? Can I do this next week? I've really got too much to do, but I'll have more time on Wednesday. Better to say no now than to be overloaded and to be resentful later, because that will damage your relationship with whoever it is. Thinking ahead, understanding that changes happen and holidays do not have to be the same. In some ways, they can't be the same. What are my expectations for the event? What I really value about this holiday, and is there more than one way to achieve it? Do I want my family to be together? Maybe it's better if they're not together. Does it have to be in the same place it was before? Do we need to have the same food? How can we make it special for everyone, regardless of how it's different? What is what really matters about our particular holiday gathering? If they're favorite places and food, is there more than one way to have them? Can we honor our gatherings by having certain important elements of that special place or food, even if it's not exactly the same? For instance, if we always had Mom's special cranberry sauce and sadly Mom is no longer with us, can somebody else make it? Maybe we could have that special dish with a candle and a photo of Mom in remembrance. So again, a lot of this involves reflecting in advance. What is most important to us in terms of people, in terms of memory, food, events? What are the essential elements, and how can we be flexible and still have them? How can we develop new traditions while honoring as many of the older ones as we can? Can we plan these together with loved ones around these ideas? Sometimes people who are not necessarily as intensely involved with planning can come up with some great ideas that we didn't think of. Oh, I didn't know that. Let's do that. That's a good idea. For instance, if we always gathered at Popo and Gogung's house or Baba and Gigi's house and the house is no longer available, are there elements of Popo's house that will remind us of earlier gatherings? Can we have plants from her yard? Can we have ornaments that she used to make? What about pictures of prior gatherings and sharing of memories? Keeping a holiday to-do list ahead of time. That includes those ideas about gifts or gatherings or things like that that occur to us, maybe not when we're shopping, but ahead of time, so that when we do go shopping, we can say, oh, that's right, I had this list. So that we have an idea. This is how much I intended to spend. This is what I originally wanted to shop for her or him. If we don't have a whole lot of money, consider cards or an e-Christmas letter. And this will also save on stamps. And for people like me who nobody can read their handwriting, that way it's typed and then people can read it. Consider gifts that don't cost money. You can create a coupon either on paper or you can text it. Lots of free kind of different decorations by text or gifts that you could put together an email. How about a coupon? I will wash your car for 2 weeks. I will mow your lawn, your trash out. I will vacuum your house, your cat. I will babysit. You can have a date night with your spouse. That's your present. You can set a walk, a beach visit, donate time or labor to a charity on their behalf, or offer to clean things up. These are things most of us have, we don't necessarily like doing, and it's great to have somebody else willing to do it. And again, that doesn't cost money. If money's a little tight, these are good ideas. Realistic expectations. Gifts, labor, and time are great for loved ones, but it's also important to realize when you're feeling stressed, if you don't have the bandwidth to do this, you don't have to have lots of presents. You can give something smaller, something less expensive. Maybe you don't need to give a whole big bunch of presents. Maybe one small one is okay. It's not important how much it costs. It's important that they know that you care about them and you want to acknowledge them. You can have a short family gathering. They don't have to be all day. You can say, we're going to meet from 8 to 9 tonight. We're going to have dinner from 6 to 7. And it doesn't have to be all day. And you don't have to cook everything yourself. This is Hawaii. A lot of us do potlucks. It's a lot easier if you have a potluck. If you know in advance that people who are going to be attending tend to be difficult or have very different opinions than others present, try not to have alcohol there. Try not to have other substances there. Discuss things in advance with others. Come up with suggestions for things if things get heated. Why don't we go take a walk? How about if we go into this room? I really want to show you our tree or, this new decoration that I just bought, and just take a break. Conflict, that brings up conflict, which sometimes happens, either at family gatherings or other kinds of gatherings. Try to be kind, avoid labels. And most of us have heard labels that we've heard people from different political persuasions or races or religious backgrounds. Avoid name calling, polarizing language, and personal attacks. This is probably somebody you care about. This is probably a family member or a friend. Be mindful of your relationship when you're talking. Try not to discuss a sensitive topic right before the important event. And also try not to do that early in the morning so that it sticks with you all day. Be mindful of your words and your tones. Be responsible and accountable for your words and actions. Keeping calm when tensions rise, preparing for your reaction to sensitive topics. If you know you're going to get upset when somebody brings up vaccines or something else because you have a strong topic about it, give yourself some options. Okay, I'm going to be able to talk about this for 10 minutes, set a timer, and I'm going to do something else at that time. I will leave the room for a while. You are in charge of your own emotions. Nobody makes you say or do anything. You are in charge of you. Realize you may not be able to change the person's mind. They may disagree with you. They can disagree with you on lots of sensitive topics. You might not be able to persuade them. Consider just sharing your points of views rather than trying to persuade them. Trying to persuade them just causes them to dig in and can damage your relationship. This is what I think. Oh, okay, Uncle, this is what you think. I understand. Understanding does not mean agreeing. Disagreeing with somebody you care about is okay. It is okay to agree to disagree. Know when to end. If you're not going to have any kind of resolution to something that's getting heated, let's do something else. Let's talk about this. Maintain the relationship over being right. Again, think about the long term. Grief and loss, other challenging events that are going to happen over these holidays. Again, holidays will all be different. Holidays tend to increase feelings of loss, especially the first holiday after the loss. I remember the first Christmas Eve that I had after my mother passed away. That was very difficult. She passed away a week before Christmas Eve. And we decorated the house because it made me feel better. But then a year later, it felt like it just happened all over again. It was very difficult. So again, you're feeling heartbroken, but the world expects you to look happy. Now we're having people over at our house. We're supposed to look like we're happy, but you don't feel like it because it's different. Somebody important is missing. The human brain has problems understanding loss. We don't handle loss smoothly right away. Even months after the person has passed away, we might pick up the phone and say, oh, I want to call mom. Or you expect to see them someplace. Oh, isn't this where mom used to teach? Oh yeah, she's not here anymore. So psychologists suggest planning in advance to deal with the holidays. Things will be different. Consider doing or not doing things proactively in advance. How will this be? Maybe we could do something a little bit differently so it doesn't feel so intense. Some traditions may feel too painful. It might be time to do something a little differently. Do you want to celebrate in the same place? Would it be better to travel instead? Who do you want to be around? Select those people who feel safe. Do you have the energy for a long party? You might not. Is it better to leave after an hour or two if the gathering is difficult? If you're thinking, you know what, I'm only going to stay for an hour, just let your host know or your hostess know that, I'm not coming up to it. I really want to see people, but I may not be able to stay long. More than likely they'll understand. Remember that a holiday is like any other day. It only lasts 24 hours. So for survivors, there are two different tasks. One is acknowledging the loss of the person that they want to be there. The holiday is different. The other is that they want to be around the other people who are still with us. So how do we do that? Sometimes there's ways to share the memory of the deceased in the celebration. We can share stories about them. We can light a candle. We can do different kinds of things and to honor that person. I also have a list, a little bit of a change of topic, from the Bereavement Network of Hawaii of different kind of bereavement resources, and I can go ahead and put that in. I can also add the link to Finding Help, which is a list of different kinds of resources in the state, including off-island on many different areas, not just counseling, but also immigration, legal, domestic violence, child abuse, adult support, adult abuse, different kinds of things. And I will put that in the chat as well. Know yourself. Be aware of things that can cause or worsen your own holiday stress. Some people get headaches or backaches. Some people can only be in groups for short period of time. They just can't be around people. Some people overeat. Some people undereat. Some people binge on alcohol or other substances. Some people stay away from substances when they're under stress. Other people get impatient and angry. Some people isolate and avoid. How do you respond? What happens when you're under stress? This may get worse under holiday stress. Take care of you. This is about self-care. This is about self-compassion. Cut back on TV and electronic devices. I know that I like to check on email and I like to check on social media, and I also like to read fan fiction. I might get excited and go, look, so-and-so added a new chapter to this story I really like. It's 2:00 in the morning. The story will be there in the morning. You do not have to read it now. So, again, cut down on devices, cut down on electronics. Consider going out. Let's go for a short walk. Let's go sit on the porch. Physical activity helps you sleep better. It helps you feel better. It helps you better cope with stress. It helps you feel calmer. If you are under medical care, consult with your physician before changing your diet, routine, or medication. Some people think, oh, it's Christmas. I'm just going to not take my diabetic medication. I'm just going to eat whatever I want. If I don't take my blood sugar this morning, after I know I just ate all these sweets, it's okay because then I don't know and then it doesn't have the effect. That's not the way it works. If you have an appointment coming up with a doctor, but it's not for a couple of months, you're not sure if you should cut down on your medication or if you should be eating this much sugar or if you should be having starch or something like that, call your doctor. You do not have to wait for your appointment. You can call and leave a question and they will call you back and answer you. It's not a matter of, well, it's the weekend, it's midnight, it's whatever. That's okay. They will have somebody on call. They can call you when they get back. They will call you back. It is okay to ask questions. Take care of you. Pay attention to when you're stressed and take care of other people. Taking care of you is taking care of others. Those of us who have traveled on planes are aware that, when the oxygen mask comes down, what do they tell you to do? Put your own mask on first. Put your child's mask on later. And that is because if you're busy trying to get your child's mask on and they're having problems, you're going to run out of air while you're doing that. Put your own mask on first and you will be able to do your child's mask more efficiently. That's better for both of you. Again, taking care of you. If you're feeling stretched too thin, it is okay to say no or not now. Be kind and respectful, including over those who have different views. Be aware of the golden rule. What's the golden rule? Golden rule, interestingly, is the same across most major religions across the world. Let's see if we can get this to work. Oops. Buddhism, whatever is disagreeable to yourself, do not do unto others. Confucianism, do not do to others what you don't want them to do to you. And the Christian version, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So basically treating yourself with the kindness that you also give others. It's often very difficult for people to do that. They say, oh, I'm more comfortable taking care of others. And sometimes it's because you're avoiding your own concern, your own worry, your own anxiety, your own sadness, and you're focusing on other people. That does not make it go away. It is still there. So if you are not feeling up to things, if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling worried, take a break. Treat yourself the way you would treat others. Be as kind to yourself as you would to others. If anybody follows the self-compassion literature, Kristen Neff, that's Neff, is one of the leaders in the field, as is Christopher Germer, Germer. And they talk about self-compassion in terms of being kind to yourself. And again, people are often kinder to others than they are to themselves. For instance, people often have difficulty trying to buck themselves up. They might say, well, I'm better than this. I can do this. I have this, I have that. I don't need to do this thing that makes me feel weak. And that's not self-compassion, that is self-esteem. Self-esteem is a way of pulling yourself separate from other people. So that is actually a way to, again, be a little more isolated and not necessarily feel as connected with others. You might feel a little bit more of a boost, but you don't feel connected. Self-compassion is more about saying, well, just like me, just like everybody else, I too make mistakes. I too am imperfect. And that helps you to feel connected. Most of the time, you do have more than one chance to do things. Most of the time, we tend to be much harder on ourselves than we are to other people. I think there's often a lot of resistance to being self-compassionate because people tend to think, oh, well, that's just indulgence. Or else they say, well, I had a really bad day at work, so I'm just gonna, buy all this Haagen-Dazs ice cream and I'm just gonna gorge myself, and that's being compassionate to myself, and it is not. That is actually self-indulgence. And usually after you eat that much ice cream or alcohol or whatever, you end up feeling a lot worse. So, maybe what you really need to do is say, what do I feel right now? I'm sad, I'm lonely, I'm hurt. Maybe what I want is to have a healthy meal, to go out with my friend and maybe talk with them for a while about how I'm feeling. Maybe I need to go see my therapist. Maybe I need some space alone. Maybe I need to journal. Maybe I need to be in nature. What do I really need right now? What would make me feel better? How do I have compassion for me? This. Again, paying attention to your own needs and feelings, having fun, enjoyable, relaxing activities with family and friends, keeping mind and body healthy as much as you can. This is not about trying to have this huge, well, I need to do all this during the holidays. I need to lose 10 pounds between Christmas and New Year's. That's not going to happen. So, what is a stepwise goal that I can do? It is okay to say no or not now. There will be other opportunities to do this. Make a plan for the new year. When gifts are gone, parties are over, people have left, it's time to reset rather than saying, again, I'm going to train for a marathon by New Year's Eve. That's not going to happen. What did I do today? What's a stepwise goal today? Can I walk around the block? Oh, that's not enough. It's okay. It's half a block more than you did the day before. Walk a half a block today, walk a half a block tomorrow. Maybe in a week, you'll be feeling up to doing a whole block. Maybe in 2 weeks, you can do 2. Celebrate what you did today and how to keep it up the next day and the next and the next. That is how new habits start, and that is how to fulfill a New Year's resolution. So psychologists talk about using SMART goals, S-M-A-R-T, goals that are specific. What, who, when, measurable, how far, how many, achievable, is this realistic, relevant, how does this relate to your bigger goal, and time bound, how long are you giving yourself? So rather than saying, okay, I'm going to be training for the new marathon, which is in December, you can say, okay, I'm going to walk a block a day. So that's very specific. I'm going to do it at 4 o'clock. The more specific it is, the more likely you are to do it. If it's, yeah, I should take a walk at some point, that's not going to happen. Some point tends not to happen. I'm going to walk at 2 o'clock every walk during my lunchtime. That's when it happens. Measurable. I'm going to walk over to the Assemblies of God Church down the street. I am going to walk down to the school that is so many blocks away. How far, how many steps, how many days of the week? I'm going to do this 2 days a week. Is this realistic? I'm going to do this every single day. That's probably not. Even if it's something you can't control, such as it's raining, my shoes are damaged, something like that. Things happen. Is it realistic to say that I'm going to do that every day? Probably not. Can I do that twice a week? Yes, possibly 3, at least 2 and up to 3 if possible, or more. That's achievable. Relevant. Is this related to my bigger goal? What is my bigger goal? My bigger goal is getting more fit, having more stamina. Sure, that will do it. If I want to be able to compete in a race, maybe not. Maybe that I will have to set that goal farther away. Okay, maybe in a few months I will do a fun run of 2 miles and see how that goes. Time bound. How long am I giving myself? I will do this for 2 weeks. I will do this for a month. I will do this for 3 months. Again, SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. This is how we make plans for the new year. So these are sustainable and realistic goals for the months ahead. So summary, the holidays can be stressful, especially with all of the changes brought about by the pandemic. That includes loss, financial strain, grief, difficult changes. Holidays can be made more manageable by managing expectations, by advanced planning, thinking about this in advance. How will this be harder? How will this be easier? What might be challenging to do? Who might be challenging people? What might be a difficult setting? What's going to be different? What do I want to be the same? Taking care of yourself as well as your loved ones. Remember, taking care of you is taking care of your loved ones. I just like this picture because it's a heart. And if anybody has any questions or comments, I will end the share here. See what I can do about putting the links for the resources and the topics. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts? Yes, no? Put this here. This is the PDF with the Raven Network of Hawai'i resources. This is the PDF for a directory of Hawai'i resources. That again, that includes resources on Oahu as well as resources on other islands. This is what the Hawai'i Help Guide looks like. Bilingual services, brain injury, case management, clubhouses, community centers, elder services, sliding scale, etc., as well as crisis resources. Okay, nobody has any questions? Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Ng. And I am going to put a survey in the chat as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes,
nice to see everybody.
Yes, for the webinar. So the link is in the chat. And please go ahead and click on that link and fill the survey out now. It's not long and it'll help us make the next workshop better. And if you'd like to revisit this workshop or recommend it to a friend who couldn't attend, you'll be able to find the video on our YouTube channel in about a week or two. And the link to the YouTube channel is included in our wrap-up email sent through Eventbrite. And of course, if you have any other questions, feel free to email reply to the aforementioned wrap-up email.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.